Welcome everybody to our How to Be a Health Detective webinar this evening with our founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, Reed Davis, and I am Jen Maleka, and we also have Dr. Al Weinstein here with us this evening to give you some insights on how to be a true health detective so that you can end the cycle of trial and error for you and your clients and help people on a deeper level. So we're real excited. We've got a great webinar, lots of valuable content, stuff that you can take into practice with you starting this evening once we get done. So make sure that you guys start loading up your questions. For everybody that's on the line, we'd love to see where you're calling in from. We always love to see the people around the world that are joining us. So you can type in the chat box and let us know where it is that you are in the world joining us this evening or afternoon or morning, where depending that is. Get familiar with that questions box on the control panel so you guys can ask us questions at the end. We do have some time reserved at the end to answer questions. And also just a reminder for all of you guys, we did promise you a bonus Reed's famous brain and body diagram, which we're going to go over in the webinar tonight. We're really excited to share that with you. And you will also get a bonus video of that in your email tomorrow as well. So I see a lot of people starting to type in here, Reed and Al. We've got Ashley from West Hills, California, Angela from Portland, Julie from North Carolina, Kathy from Alberta, Canada, coming from your home country there, Reed. So we've got a good group of people on here. So I'm going to turn it over to Reed, and let's start teaching these guys how to be a true health detective.
Well, thanks so much, and thank you for being here. I see Ann Davis is on, and she's got a great last name. And so you're in the right, yeah. Now, listen, a lot of us, look, we're all in the business. I figure we're all health coaches or allied professionals. And a lot of times we do feel like we're on this sort of hamster wheel kind of a thing, but I guarantee you, you're in the right place if you want to help people on a deeper level. If you're tired of relying on the doctor's lab reports that don't mean anything to you and rarely mean anything to the client either. And you've got clients, but they might not be quite reaching their goals, even if they follow your program. And you and your clients, your clients still have unresolved health complaints. You know, of course, we're all working on ourselves. That's what I mean by that. And clients are seeking help elsewhere. And this is the worst thing about being in business is clients leaving you and not referring people to you. So you're always stuck finding new ones to replace them. And I want to tell you guys this. I didn't sign up to be a health coach. And back when I started, we didn't call them that. But I didn't sign up to just be a marketer. I signed up to be a helper dude and really help people. And the only way to really do it right is to know how to build a referral practice. So we're going to cover that and a lot of other things today. I want to tell you, if you've got any of these problems, one or more, it might not be your fault. You might just need a better system. That's really all there is to it. So what you're going to learn today, and by the way, thanks, Dr. Al, for being here. Dr. Al's been my partner in crime since we invented the airplane. And we're going to cover why symptoms or lab reports don't tell you what's wrong with the person. Amazingly, they do not. Even though I teach a course in lab reports, lab work, I'm going to show you what you can rely on them for and what you can't. What you really need to know to investigate the crime scene and solve the case following the health detective line of thinking here, and how to piece the clues together, handle the real culprits, and get better health outcomes. And guess what? You can go from struggling to grow your business and retain clients to feeling amazing, doing your best work, helping clients to feel it and perform at their best. Am I right, Dr. Al? Didn't say hi.
Yeah, well, hi, everybody. I'm always happy to be here. And not only are you right, but I just want to tell a very, very quick story. And that is that when you really understand what you're going to learn tonight, it really gets you off the new client merry-go-round. You know, most people in the healthcare world are in what I call the new client merry-go-round. They lose a client, they look for another one. They lose a client, they look for another one, and their business doesn't grow. But when you really understand what you're going to learn here tonight, clients will seek you. You won't have to go out there and look for clients. They're going to come to you, and there is a very big difference there.
Thank you sir. So again, this idea of health coach, health detective, you know, anyone who's a do-gooder can do this. And you can start with just doing it on yourself. And the public's facing absolutely unprecedented levels of health problems. You know, I'm real good friends with Dr. Tom O'Brien, and I love when he starts his webinar out with, you know, United States is ranked #2 in health, #2 from the bottom, you know, of the 50 countries that are in the survey. Quite remarkable. And I'm not going to read all this list. I just want to guarantee you something about what these health complaints have in common. Those are the things people are walking in your office with, walking around with, going to the doctor for, not getting any help. And clients who have them are all caught in a cycle of trial and error. So let's look at that. Where does that start? It starts with standard medicine not meeting our clients' needs. The doctors aren't bad people, and they save lives and they do lots of good things. But clients are often being told everything looks normal on the test result. Raise your hand if you've ever been told or know someone who's been told everything looks normal on a blood test result, yet you still, or that person still feels like crap. Now, that we know, you know it intuitively. But even abnormal values aren't the real problem. They're only a result of the real problem.
Rita,
So
you have.
here's
I'm going
something
to
we can
interrupt you
take
for
to
a
the
second. I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Jen? Are you having a little problem with his audio, or is it only what I'm hearing?
No, I think it's only what you're hearing. I can hear him fine.
Okay, good. Sorry about that, guys. I
Now,
apologize.
you're so old,
Okay.
it's probably your ears.
It could be my new Canon printer. I don't know
So
what.
treating symptoms or treating the lab values keeps clients stuck in the cycle of trial and error. And that's what's being done out there, folks. And so here's kind of what it looks like. People are coming off doctor visits because, you know, in reality, if you're really hurting, you probably should go see a doctor, make sure it's not some mortal thing going on. But so often people are told that their results are normal or they're abnormal, and here's your prescription or something like that, or here's you know, some suggestions for you. And people today in our world, which is growing and growing and growing, they don't want to see a doctor. They don't want to be told it's normal. And even if they get abnormal test results, they don't want to take medication. So what do? They go down the street, diet program. Oh, someone's got a new exercise program. Oh, there's a new supplement on the market. Hey, try my therapy. You know, people are spending a lot of money on this stuff, and people are making a lot of money on this stuff. But guess what? Clients only get a little bit better, or if at all, and then they go try the next one, and then they go try the next one. And this is what we call the cycle of trial and error. Obviously not filling needs either. So what's the deal? Well, I started in the late 90s working in a wellness center as a health director and case manager, eventually was the case manager. And quite naively at the time, I got really sick of hearing from the patients walking in the door. They had already seen 5 or 8 or 10 practitioners or more, and they still weren't well. And it absolutely blew my mind. It became my mission for the rest of my life. I decided I would be the last person that patients needed to see. Again, quite naively at the time. But I happen to know and be working with some of the top leaders in alternative medicine. That's what we called it back then. Then it became integrative. Then it became complementary. It's now turned into functional medicine. They really used to be called quacks before that, but you know, they're trying to do some good in the world, and they're really smart people. And not only did I work with them, but I performed over 10,000 lab tests on people myself, mostly women and their husbands and children. I made my own observations about who got better and who didn't, added that to the tremendous mentoring that I've been receiving, and developed the FDN Industrial Health Statistics programs. Now, this is not going to be one long commercial for FDN, but I have to brag a little bit and tell you why you should listen to me, because I've been doing this for 20 years and I've run thousands and thousands of labs. And by the way, now I've trained thousands of other professionals. So we teach professionals how to fill that needs gap and end the cycle of trial and error for themselves and their clients. And that's rather a candid shot of my favorite hobby when I'm not working.
Could I say something
And
about? Can I
here's
say
how we do.
Okay. I don't know if you can hear me because I'm still having a little audio trouble.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say something about something that everyone might start recognizing now regarding people going to doctors. And at one time in the early stages of when FDN started, the doctor saying, everything's normal, but you don't feel well was very common. And it was really to help those people didn't really take a lot of the skills it takes now. But one of the changes in the functional world is, and FDN really started before people even were talking about functional medicine, is now a lot of people really are not well. So not only do you have to have skills to help people that have normal lab tests, but you really have to have skills now to help people that don't feel well, that have abnormal tests. You're going to see as many abnormal tests as you do as at one time you saw a normal test. And that's how things like addiction started out, because there are people who really don't feel well, who need help from someone who really knows what they're doing. So it has shifted a little bit. You need to be prepared for both sides now. You have to bring yourself up to 2019 of who the clients really are out there. That's why this stuff is so important right now.
Is it 2019 already? Jeez.
It is on the East Coast. The West Coast is a few hours behind, actually.
So, well, it's even later in the day there, so you're probably even sillier than I am. But so here's how you fill the needs gap and end the cycle of trial and error. People are coming off of whatever they're coming off of, the latest thing they're doing, and they wouldn't be coming to us if it was working. They're coming because they aren't there yet. And there's three main things. Don't chase symptoms or lab tests. Root cause may never be known. You can actually sort of give up on that theory. Not entirely, but you'll see what I mean. Instead, you sort out metabolic chaos, which I'm going to explain. And that ends the cycle of trial and error, and both needs are met. Your client here and you, because your practice will be filled with the referrals from happy customers. So instead of chasing these false leads, again, using the detective analogy, and they're all over the place. I mean, symptoms are the number one false lead. What if we used a step-by-step assessment procedure that allows you to identify the underlying conditions, a method or methodology of correlating those test results with your health complaints, validating a therapeutic protocol? We do a step called clinical correlation that's critical. And then, of course, potent, proven, professional, drug-free protocols that help you improve health instead of just treating symptoms. And it's absolutely time to stop the cycle of trial and error and start taking some of these steps. So this is something, again, I'm going to give you a video that you can study and play over and over and learn to do this. This is a demonstration that gets audiences completely in line with our thinking. So it's a new way of looking at disease. It's also known as the brain body diagram. I borrowed it from a chiropractor 20 years ago and made it my own. So we start off with this big organ up in your skull that allows you to think, called the brain, and it communicates with the body through various channels, the blood, the nerves, the chi. These various elements pass through those channels and allow your body to function. Whether it's the heart, lungs, kidneys, pancreas, adrenals, ovaries, testes, if you got them, whatever it is, function is the key. And this is a fundamental belief that I hope you have too, and that's that your body's already designed to function really well. You're designed for 100% function, and that is what normal is. Every cell knows what its job is, right? And Jen does this too. Jen, by the way, who's introduced us today, is a top FDN practitioner, and she's going to be reading your questions and attending the chat box and things like that. And we're going to save the questions for the end, though.
Yep,
now, if your body's functioning, okay, Jen, thank you. So if your body's functioning normally, it will be in a state of ease, also known as homeostasis and balance. That's a primary consideration. And your vital reserve, your sort of life force, may the force be with you, that is going to have a substantial reserve. Vitality is what we seek. Homeostasis, high level of vitality, lots of vital reserve, and guess what? That's not how people come to us. They actually come with these little things down here. So how is that possible? Well, guess what? They must not be at ease. They must be in a diseased state. They can't be in a diseased state if they're functioning normally, so they must have malfunction. Something, some cells, some tissues, some organs, some system in the body is not functioning normally. And usually we find it's quite a combination of those things. And so malfunction causes disease, which causes symptoms, which are very common, but absolutely not normal. We simply call this a state of metabolic chaos. That's what your body's in. You know, there's not enough lab work to go around to run to tell you everything that's going on. So we've coined a phrase for that, which helps us handle it quite easily. Now, people come in because of those symptoms. Yes.
Hey, Reed, we're getting a little bit of feedback from you on your mic there.
Might be I'm talking too loud, but I can plug in my headset.
Yeah, I would think a couple people have commented that maybe there's an issue with the sound besides Dr. Al. So let's try the headphones. Thanks, guys, for letting us know. Let's see if this resolves the issue.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
I think we might be good.
Testing. All right.
Yeah.
Stand by.
Yeah. Also, if there's
microphone,
if anything else is running in the background programs, turn those off. It almost sounds like you have a virus that's searching your computer at times.
I'm just going to sign out of Skype.
Oh,
I
that's
think,
a great idea.
that'll allow me. All right, here we go.
And I think
Reed,
we don't have any sound.
Reed? Oh, hopefully you could hear us. Now there's you can hear me, Jen, fine, right?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Let's text Reed and just tell him that we lost his sound entirely.
I think he can probably hear us.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that when he switched off Skype, it probably just changed his audio. Sorry, guys. Hang on there with us for just a few minutes. We'll get this figured out.
Hello.
He's coming in slowly now. You're coming back now.
Hello. All right.
Hello.
Listen. Yeah. Let me do it this way.
We hear you.
Hello.
Now. We hear you.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So I think we got it cured. Thanks. Sorry about that, folks. So my point was that symptoms are the last thing to occur in a disease process, and people come in because of symptoms, and they are seeking relief, which is the first phase of care. And obviously, you know, most of the practitioners out there are selling pills. Even if it's a nutritionist, sometimes they just give them supplements or something to hope they feel better. And obviously, surgery is to be avoided at all costs. And what we know now is that symptoms are a signal something's wrong. No symptom is normal. Never let anyone tell you, you know, migraines are normal or anything like that. Symptoms may go away or decrease with relief care, but may come back with a vengeance, or new symptoms will appear. Now, in our paradigm, we focus on resolving that metabolic chaos while providing some intelligent relief care. You don't want to just provide relief care. It doesn't fix a darn thing. So we look at distress or stress. We call it distress, the kind of negative kind. There's mental, emotional, the way people perceive the world and people around them. And there's biomechanical trauma, weaknesses, physical stuff built up. And of course, where we kind of specialize is in the biochemical hidden stressors and contributors to metabolic chaos. When we do that, we're actually identifying healing opportunities and helping the body to regain normal function. As you see here in the middle, function is returned to normal. We're in what we call the corrective phase of care. We've done with relief care. We're actually correcting things now. Well, guess what? The body returns to a state of ease. Health is restored. Symptoms disappear. Complaints often permanently resolved when you know which steps to take. And that's what we teach our clients. It's all about getting them up to the point of maintenance. And that's when they're taking care of themselves. So where I kind of came up with this stuff is that in 2001, I've been practicing for a little while in that clinic. being a nutritional therapist and running the place. And we had a lot of patients. And I read this Healthy and Natural Journal article, Get a Grip on Stress. And you could take this source right here and Google it, and you'll see the article I read all those years ago. And I started focusing on stress, number one causal factor. And here at the bottom, stress contributes to half of all illnesses. I think it's actually more. When you look at chronic degenerative disease, it's more than half, I assure you of that. And so I started breaking down what kinds of stress. There's the mental, emotional, spiritual. All of these things in the list here, they're all contributors to metabolic chaos. They go directly into the nervous system, the circulatory system, the respiratory, you name it. And so we have techniques for that. Now, physical trauma is another one, and I personally am kind of a victim of my own bad behavior and have really, really used my body well. I've had motorcycle accidents, sports injuries, and all kinds of things. All of that contributes to metabolic chaos too. It puts pressure on nerves, circulation, and all kinds of things. And of course, we have to get people checked out.
Reed,
But again,
before you go on,
what?
Did we really give people a good explanation of what metabolic chaos is? Because you keep on mentioning it, and I'm not sure we well define that yet.
Well, Al, you just sit on your hands because it's coming up.
Thank you. Okay, good. I want to make sure that, because I don't want anyone to get lost.
Okay, yeah, I hate those misunderstood words. Those are no good. It puts people to sleep. But guess what? Hang in there. So we've got these different types of stress, some of it very well hidden. And those hidden stress and imbalances, if not soon resolved, cascade into other areas, and metabolic chaos ensues. Now, that's the real problem. And depending on one's what we call weak links in metabolism, it causes serious dysfunction in some people, leading to disease, and symptoms will occur, which is how the problem appears or shows up. But it's very rarely true that symptoms are the problem. Again, it's not bad to get rid of them. So here's that same list of all the, not all the things, it's actually a short list of what's going on with people all over the world, including New Jersey. And the other thing that these health complaints have in common is they are the result of hidden stressors and dysfunction, which is the big definition of metabolic chaos. Hidden stressors and dysfunction, but let's look at it a little more closely. So what is it? It's a state where hidden stressors have caused malfunction, but the symptoms appear so far downstream, it's impossible to predict the root cause. But that's exactly what every practitioner who's not properly trained is going to do. And you may have been doing this yourself. So you're going to predict, oh, a certain cluster of symptoms. So a clue to metabolic chaos is when your intervention based on that cluster of symptoms, we call it a traditionally reliable cluster of symptoms, or even abnormal test results, produces only a marginal response. So contributors to metabolic chaos are at cause. Metabolic chaos is the effect until metabolic chaos itself becomes the single most significant health condition. And it's quite true. Here's a wonderful sort of little demonstration. We take someone with that traditionally reliable cluster of symptoms, thyroid symptoms. We'll go over them in a minute maybe. But thyroid is part of the endocrine system. Endocrine dysfunction isn't really the problem a lot of the time, or I'd say even most of the time. It's the result of metabolic chaos. It also contributes to metabolic chaos. That's why the arrows are pointed on each end. And depending on one's individual weak links in metabolism, you end up with other problems. It cascades, as we just showed you in the previous slide. The nerve cells get also dysfunctional. Brain fog, cloudy thinking might become another cluster of symptoms. And we don't want to just treat symptoms. We want to sort out this metabolic chaos, which is what the rest of the webinar will be about. But what I want to show you right now is that people who only treat the symptoms end up with more and more chronic degenerative problems. They pile up, and it becomes pretty hard to sort out if you don't have a great system. You can end up with carb metabolism issues, which means your blood sugar is going to go up and down. Glucose homeostasis is out. And what happens is fat and protein metabolism also starts to be dysfunctional, and you end up with all kinds of other symptoms. So now this person, by the way, I have to tell you, was actually eating pretty well, and they still ended up with carb metabolism issues and blood sugar dysregulation. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say something. Can you go back to the slide before? Because I want to add something to make metabolic chaos a little clearer. Because I want to make sure everyone really understood what you mean by metabolic chaos. And one is, I don't think you did a bad job, but I'm still having a lot of problems with your audio, losing lots of words, and I'm not sure if there's a number of people I think that are having the same issue. So I think this is so important, it's worth maybe going over again. And so let me just say this about metabolic chaos. Realize that people can come to you with a vast array of symptoms. And as practitioners, we always have a tendency to make a prediction about what the problem is. So let's say they come in with the standard thyroid symptoms. Well, we all have a desire to put our finger on it immediately. So we say, hey, that sounds like thyroid to me. I'm going to treat this person as a thyroid problem. The only challenge you have when you do that, and that's sort of the old paradigm that we all used, that's why everyone has a digestive problem, or everyone has a liver problem, or everyone has a thyroid problem, because we look at symptoms, even though we claim not to treat symptoms, and we put them in a box and say, it must be a thyroid, must be a digestive, and we treat that because it sounds like that's what it is to us. But what really Reed discovered over the last number of years that he's been doing this, that a lot of times the symptoms that you're seeing are not really what is the obvious. Even though your tendency is to predict that, what happens is it could be coming very far away from really where the problem is. So thyroid symptoms could be a consequence of a myriad of other problems that may have even started first. And as a consequence, which is where this circle comes from. So if you're looking on the right, this person comes in and you think it's thyroid, but it really could be a carb metabolism problem. The problem is most people treat the symptom that's the easiest to wrap their arms around, which is why so many people fail in getting their clients better. They think they're a thyroid problem. They treat them as if they're a thyroid problem, but they never fix their carb metabolism, and they don't get the result that they're expecting, and you don't get the result you're expecting, which is really the biggest challenge that functional medicine people have. They treat things because they've been taught to look at the symptoms, even though they claim that we're not dealing with symptoms. And they have this great need to think we're going to find the underlying cause, but they're really not doing that. They're not really looking.
Well, they don't have a system. Yeah.
They don't have a system.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and they are using a different mentality too. We're going to do that. So this person, like I said, yeah, they've got thyroid symptoms, and that's not their problem. They also have blood sugar going up and down, even though they actually eat pretty well. So why is that? It's metabolic chaos. It's weak links in metabolism, and things aren't right. So here's another example. And now I've changed weak links to vital voids. Remember, vitality is everything, and there are voids. People just have inborn or acquired voids in metabolism. So here's a person who on purpose is giving themselves carb metabolism issues. In other words, they think Snickers is an energy snack, and they're do 2 a day, just to keep their energy up, along with coffee. And then, of course, they need alcohol at night to go to sleep. But they're purposely, almost on purpose, causing metabolic chaos in the body. And it cascades, and they end up with fat and protein metabolism, weight and fat distribution. Now, this is a different person, so guess what? Their immune system goes off. It down-regulates or it up-regulates. You got pro and anti-inflammatory states are enhanced. And guess what? Eventually, it's the endocrine system, and they might actually walk in an office complaining of thyroid dysfunction, symptoms that the traditionally reliable cluster of symptoms that ends up sounding like thyroid. And then you could even test the thyroid and say, yep, your thyroid's low, here's your stuff. And that person, I guarantee you, will be locked in a cycle of trial and error if they don't start to really sort out metabolic chaos, which, remember, that's how we end the cycle of trial and error. Now, I do teach a course in lab work, and a lot of experts, so-called experts, are running tests. Almost anyone can get access to labs today, most of the people watching this. But I want to start with this. There's no one lab. I guarantee you that. There's no little thing like on Star Trek that you bleep over the guy's chest and tells you everything that's wrong. We're hundreds of years away from that, if ever. There certainly isn't one blood test or urine test. So what Dr. Al just said is right. They run a test based on symptoms, then they treat the test result. Now, symptoms will come back or new symptoms will appear. And what are they going to do? Run another lab. They're not ending the cycle of trial and error. They're actually starting a new cycle of symptoms, test, treat the paper. Oh, run it. And here's what it looks like. So let's take that person with a traditionally reliable cluster of symptoms: weight gain, low energy, dry skin, muscle aches, swelling ankles. Constipation's huge in this cluster of symptoms. What is it? Well, it sounds like thyroid. So the clinical diagnosis sounds like thyroid. Well, better run a thyroid test. Yep, pat myself in the back, found your problem. You got low thyroid output. Let's get those test results in range. In other words, let's treat the paper, give you something. Oh, yes, we've got it right where we want it. Now come back, we'll monitor it regularly, and we'll titrate your dosage accordingly. Well, some symptoms might go away, but the underlying causes and metabolic chaos will worsen. That's all you do. Symptoms will come back or new symptoms appear. What do? Run another test. Now it sounds like your testosterone. Sounds like testosterone. Yep. Oh, I got it now. It's your so now you got another medication and another one and another one. It's really test after test after test and a new cycle of trial and error. Try a new test.
Could
in the
also,
old paradigm.
Okay. Again, I was going to say something because now I think we're hitting on it. But I want to say one thing to those people who are listening who already run lab tests. If they do run lab tests, and they are, of course, people treat the paper, as you say. They get a lab test, and the lab test is off, and they say to the patient, well, the client, excuse me, based on what I'm finding, this is the problem. It is, this, and this is what we're going to do. And then have you ever had the experience you run another lab test and the results are worse? And now you give them some excuse why the lab results are worse. But if that was the original results, you would have told them you found the problem. The reason that your lab results can get worse is because you're not treating metabolic chaos. You're literally driving a system that's the result of a metabolic chaos that could be coming from anywhere. And you literally can make their lab tests worse because it's only a point in time. And if you're treating a symptom rather than metabolic chaos, you have the potential to literally make a lab test worse. And instead of making excuses for that, oh, the body has to go through a certain healing process. You always get worse before you get better. It's not unusual for us to see. Instead of saying all that, the problem is when you have a system, you realize that the lab results are only another symptom. They're not actually showing you the cause. They're showing you a symptom of a bigger problem. And that's why there's only one thing, which Reed will talk about. There's only one thing you can ever treat. You can't treat thyroid. You could treat metabolic chaos. And once you get that under control systematically, then all of a sudden they're no longer a thyroid symptom patient. If
you go back to the brain body diagram, you know that if you just deal with the dysfunction and disease processes, that you don't worry about the symptoms, they just go away. So now this, by the way, folks, everyone who's watching, and thank you for paying attention, and thanks for being here again. Our attendance has grown actually, so we've been covering the dilemma that health coaches have, which is that they're losing clients because they're not getting better enough and they're not referring. So they're always out marketing. And these slides are right out of the first module of the course, of the FDN course. There's 12 modules. I went through there and just tried to pick out a few and in some kind of order, and I'm going through it. Now, this slide actually comes after about 8 slides on thyroid. Like I go through the anatomy, the physiology, the biochemistry of the hypothalamus, pituitary, and thyroid axis. And so what we could show you on with scientific evidence is that you could have thyroid symptoms, but it could be very far upstream that they're coming from. It could be the hypothalamus and pituitary. It could be the thyroid itself, of course, but it could be liver, overbinding, underbinding, poor conversion of T4 to T3, poor clearance of excess thyroid, and that kind of a thing. Could come from the gut. Your thyroid hormone, the active T3 thyroid hormone that controls your metabolism, 25% of it, 25% of it comes from a conversion that happens through good gut flora, has an effect on a couple pre-T3 elements. It can also be cellular. It can also be the adrenals affecting thyroid. They just shut the thyroid right down, put you into hibernation. And there's nothing wrong with your thyroid. And it only gets worse from there. But so the old paradigm, with that cluster of symptoms and with a thyroid test result that says you're low, you are hypothyroid. But the new paradigm is that it's actually metabolic chaos. It's not the thyroid in 8 out of 10 cases. So we have but one diagnosis. Now, I'm not a physician. I can't give a medical diagnosis. I use the word diagnosis like a computer guy would. What's wrong with your computer? Or like an auto mechanic would. What's wrong with your auto? This is what's wrong with you and your clients. It's metabolic chaos. We've shown you symptoms don't matter, and the root cause may never be known. It's way too far upstream, but that's okay. It could be undetectable, very far removed from what you predict or even measure, as Dr. L said, but that doesn't matter either. Guess what? You can have a positive effect upon it when you know what steps to take. And this is very emancipating. This slide alone tells the story of how health coaches actually perform better than physicians treating specific conditions. So there's only 3 steps to resolving metabolic chaos. We assess the underlying conditions and contributors to metabolic chaos, very comprehensive onboarding, including careful history taking and lab investigation. We use functional labs. I'm going to go over them with you if you hang in here. We customize a Dress for Health Success program. That's our holistic protocols. And then someone has to run the program. We coach them up how to do that. We have minimum time periods that we work with people, like 3 months, and then you can go from there. But we spend that time coaching up function, coaching down contributors to metabolic chaos, and causal factors are resolved. We basically figure out what needs fixing and then help fix it. So I'm assuming you guys can hear me well now. And here's step 1. So there's 3 steps, as I said. A little bit more detail. Step 1, we investigate the hidden dysfunctions and internal stressors. Those are in the hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and nervous systems. This is something that, again, was by my observation and the tremendous mentoring I had. These are the 6 areas that if you fix these, if you can identify the areas that need improvement within these 6 categories, you're going to fix people. You're going to fix almost everyone walking in your office. These are the hidden, because that spells hidden. If you look at the first letters, stressors and dysfunctions correlate with most common health complaints, and it's quite remarkable. We run a stress and hormone profile. Here we see that hypothalamus and pituitary axis to the thyroid, axis to the adrenals, and axis to the gonads. And it's very easy to run this test and look at all of them. And guess what? Now you're looking at something in black and white that actually means something to your client and to you. Here we have a cortisol awakening response. This is a saliva test for cortisol. We see that this plus 60 minutes here should be much lower. So we've got someone with stress or perceived stress, and the body's going to respond the same. We see here in the afternoon, I'm circling with the red, a very low point, indicating more dysfunction. Now, I don't have time to tell you, well, what I'm going to say is that we treat this by treating every cell, tissue, and organ in the system. We don't treat the paper. And here's the second page of that same test. It's just a simple saliva test, the estradiol is very low. That's your estrogen. Progesterone's low. Melatonin's really low, and testosterone's really low. Low estrogen and the according symptoms. Low progesterone, the matching symptoms. Low melatonin, same. Low testosterone, same. But you have to realize the test results are not the problem. They're the results of the problem. If all you do is give them something to change these numbers, oh, by the way, there's a lot of good products out there that would do that. And manufacturers are just lined up to have you just sell that to your client. But I want to guarantee you they'll get better for a very short period of time, and they'll be right back to you, or they'll be going down the street to the next practitioner if that's all you do. So that's a saliva test. The next one is a urine test. We run 5 labs in every person in our assessment. The metabolic assessment profiles urine. It's easily collected at home, sent into the lab. Anyone can do it. And it assesses more dysfunction, more healing opportunities, more areas that need improvement. It's a direct measurement of liver congestion, among other things, and documents metabolic chaos very, very well for us. Now, here's a sample of a test result. We've got liver congestion. We've got oxidative stress. That's like the body's turning brown, like an apple turns brown. It happens in the body. There's ways to figure out what it's caused by and how to fix it. And of course, this is a person with very poor digestion and dysbiosis, very poor protein breakdown. And these are the inside secrets that tell us what the healing opportunities are. Now I'm going to go over 3 more labs.
Which one of these, wait a second, which one of these would you treat first if this was a patient?
That's a trick question. We treat everything simultaneously. Exactly. So you treat everything simultaneously. We're identifying a constellation of healing opportunities. We don't diagnose medically. What we do is we've already looked at all these things. We've looked at hormone imbalances, cortisol dysregulation, sex hormone imbalances, vital reserve snapshot, circadian rhythm problems. We've looked at low sex hormones or high sex hormones, and then also melatonin. We've looked at maldigestion, dysbiosis, oxidative stress, poor detoxification, and things. That's only 2 labs. Look at all those things we've identified or could possibly identify. They're actually wrong with the person. And there's that test result. Now, intestinal permeability is huge. I'm just going to, because out of respect for people's time, say nutrient assimilation, penetration of antigens and bad stuff getting in through the gut lining is very bad for you. Further way to document metabolic chaos. Here's what that test result looks like. We've got someone with very high lactulose, meaning leaky gut, very low mannitol, which means that their villi, the little fingers that absorb nutrients, are destroyed. So they're going to be malnourished, even if they're eating great. And then the lactose to mannitol ratio is actually considered by lab standards to be the ultimate leaky gut test. A lot of more. So we've just, and this is urine, easily collected at home. Look at all the healing opportunities we're identifying for a person. And I want to tell you, we're covering the main ones. Now, pathogen screening is very important. You have to check stool or something else for pathogens. You got to look for overgrowth, biofilms, things that will prevent the body from healing. These are dirty little secrets. This person in particular had yeast overgrowth and an H. pylori infection. But we have to maintain our sanity, maintain our methodology, which is don't get trapped into saying, aha, I found your problem. It's H. pylori. We'll treat that and you'll get all better. They will not get all better. They have these things because they're a weak host. And so keep that in mind as we look at the last test. And anyone with all of that going on that I just showed you is going to have food sensitivities. Now, I'll just say real quickly that the yellow and red bars going horizontally out from the name of the food or chemical or product that you could consume are the ones you have to avoid. Your body's reacting to these as if they were an outside foreign invader. I mean, there's not a lot of green ones there, to tell you the truth. So we check everyone for up to 170 different foods, and we get them off that stuff. That's 5 labs, folks. And guess what you've just identified. A ton of
Metabolic
healing
chaos.
opportunities.
I say you
Yeah.
identified
Well,
metabolic chaos.
okay. Well, you must have seen my presentation before, because we have to go here first.
Okay, go.
We know now that well, everyone has seen the iceberg analogy before. Like symptoms are on the top, and what the real underlying, the root cause is on the bottom. Well, that's true, but it's a little more complex. Neither the symptoms or the lab values are the problem. The underlying dysfunction, which we just identified with those labs, HPA axis, adrenals, cortisol dysregulation, circadian rhythm, hormone dynamics, poor nutrient breakdown and absorption, pro-oxidant activity, sluggish liver detoxification, dysbiosis, and all these things you see listed here, biofilms, inflammation, immunodeficiency. Those are the chronic stress-related dysfunctions that have to be identified. But what a lot of practitioners are doing who are running the one test or the two tests, they aren't identifying enough of them. And they're thinking that they could just treat this one, or this one, or this one. Oh boy, come back in 3 months, we're going to treat this one, and then this one, and then the others. And what they're really dealing with is metabolic chaos. And if they had the right system, they would treat it all at the same time. Save that person a lot of grief, including
Boom.
yourself. So it's really metabolic chaos. Now, this slide's all messed up, but it says what we do is after step one, which is identifying those healing opportunities, we design a Dress for Health Success program. Now that stands for diet, and we use a system to identify the right diet for each individual. Rest, we have study sleep science, we teach all that. Exercise, of course, a lot of that you know about. Stress reduction is huge because it's where we can pull the hidden stressors out. And then, of course, supplements. And I don't have my own brand, but I know a lot about them, and I teach a lot about them, and they are very effective in supporting the processes we want to support and stimulating where we need to stimulate. Now, this Dress for Health Success program is so effective, we're granted a trademark by the USPTO, and my practitioners use it exclusively.
Can I ask another
It's
question?
basically
before you go on?
diet.
Hold on a second. Can you go
Yes.
back to those pictures
Yes.
for a second? Go back to those pictures for a second. Doesn't everyone say you should get a lot of rest, get exercise, reduce your stress, and diet? Doesn't everyone always say that when they're in the functional medicine
Yeah.
business? What's the difference?
Yeah, they
here?
do. Well, the difference is that we use the principles and use it so effectively that we can apply it to every cell, every tissue, every organ simultaneously. It's not a real secret, Dr. Al, but applied in unison to the degree that we apply it, to the degree that we're able to individualize a diet, coach people up on proper sleep and exercise. I mean, not everyone should do the same types of exercise.
Exactly.
And of course, the biggest area, and not everyone should do the same diet. That should be really obvious. We do lean towards the ancestral diet, but I could show you in a second. So the stress reduction is the biggest one. Supplements are huge too. And I just think people don't really have a step-by-step system for individualizing these things.
And I think the point I really wanted to make is that everyone says those things, but everything doesn't work for everybody. And when you identify metabolic chaos, it allows you to individualize those things for the person. So you don't give the same exercise to everybody. You don't give everyone the same recommendations for supplements. Not everyone has the same diet. That was really the point I wanted everyone to get.
Well, you know what? There's no one diet right for everybody.
Exactly.
And there's diets absolutely wrong for some people. Like everyone knows ancestral diet makes a lot of sense. But which ancestors? Their mother's side, your father's side, your great-grandfather's side. Because of the way humans travel in the world for the last 10,000 years, there is no one ancestral diet. Because you have people from, Africa living in Asia. And so which ancestral diet should I use? So we actually have a better system than that.
Exactly.
Now rest, requires coaching any way you want to look at it. And knowing how to create a sleep environment, and exercise, same thing. It's individualized for each person. And obviously you have to do it. Stress reduction is where we've identified and eliminated the biochemical stressors, especially the hidden ones. And supplementation, we know how to target and support and stimulate as needed, filling gaps because your food supply is very weak. So it does sound simple, Al, and it is, but guess what? It works, and it applies to every single condition a person might have. So these are the principles: investigating those hidden sources of dysfunction, all those things we identified, those healing opportunities. We don't diagnose or treat anything specifically. We treat everything non-specifically. In other words, sleeping does affect every cell, tissue, and organ in your body. It's along those lines of thinking anyway. We make observations about metabolic chaos, remove as many contributors as possible, unmasking the basic systems that are actually failing. That takes out guesswork. That takes out the trial and error. That takes out the hope you hit it, hope you run the right test. It takes all of that out of it. Once we identify with those 5 labs, these functions, we nurture them, we support the weak links, and metabolic pathways get restored and clients eventually get better. Some of them very, 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 very quickly. The relief phase is generally about 3 weeks. Maintenance could take longer. Corrective care takes longer, and maintenance is for the rest of your life. But this you could take to the bank, folks. General principles of health building outperform specific treatments. So one of the hardest thing I have training people to do is not to get trapped in the specifics. Oh, she's got IBS. She's got IBS. Oh, I'm going to treat that. I'm going to use holistic this and that, and even run a test and things like that. And guess what? The reason she has IBS, you may not really deal with if you don't take this universal approach. Remember, we're trying to identify the entire constellation of dysfunction. So step 1 is identify the healing opportunity. Step 2 is customize address program. Step 3 is run the program. But again, everyone's different. They have the same symptoms as their neighbor, but for completely different reasons. We've shown you that. So we have people go through the 3 phases of care: relief phase, corrective phase, and maintenance phase. They're on their own by then. We've educated them, taught them everything they need to know, or everything we know by that time. You start with their weakest area, get them going, answer questions, guide course correction, provide honest feedback and accountability, and of course, we could retest or refer out if we have to. There's no power boating to health, folks. You have to sail it like a ship. One thing we have no control over when you're sailing is the current. There's no control over the current. You have no control over the wind. And those are the most important factors. So it's understanding what you can and can't control and getting people to correct course that matters. And of course, in a nutshell, it's vital reserve, the innate intelligence in every cell, tissue, and organ, versus contributors to metabolic chaos. And it can be sorted out if you're willing to take the steps. We coach up that vital reserve, we coach down the contributors to metabolic chaos. All the known stressors, hidden stressors, and use our address program to coach up function. It's really that simple. This should be very emancipating. By that, I mean, this should set you free, folks. This should set you completely free to go forth and help as many people as you possibly can. And you can line them up, interview them to see if they qualify to even work with you. You won't have to let them interview you. And please pick me, pick me, pick me. No, they'll be lucky to get you. And it's not an ego thing. They'll be lucky that they ran into you or that you, found them. But when you understand that root cause may never be known, and it's okay because it's so undetectable, maybe very far removed from what you predict and even what the average practitioner measures, and that doesn't matter either. You can have a positive effect upon it when you know what steps to take. Now, here's something else to take to the bank. If you get the replay, write this down. Put it on your website or something. Healing occurs when the healing process is focused on identifying and removing as many contributors to metabolic chaos as possible. That's the coaching down of metabolic chaos, and supporting or coaching up function through corrective behavior and natural therapies, which we are experts in, absolute experts. So my folks, I'm going to be wrapping it up here and opening up for questions in just a few minutes. Here's the plan, the way I see it for you who, remember, we started with, are you in the right place? You might feel like you're caught on a hamster wheel a little bit. You're not quite getting the results you want with your clients, or you don't have any clients and you want to make sure you do this right. You want to join the world's leading health coach training program and learn everything I've been showing you. All of this is out of my module 1, investigative skills and mindset that seeks to unravel metabolic chaos. How to identify the healing opportunities, those labs. I'll teach you all the anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, everything you need to know. Figure out what's really wrong. How to apply the wellness principles, even though Dr. Al says, well, people know about diet and exercise, they're not enough and they're not applied properly. And how to walk your clients along the proven path towards health. And we're all on the path. We're all on the path. Even Dr. L is not perfect. You know, I know because I've lived with them, and well, never mind about that. So how to, and of course, it's a business model. We teach you how to package and price your services so you make a great living doing what you love to do and grow your business by getting real results in your clients' health and well-being. Now, this is where I admit it does start to sound like a commercial. Until now, I've just been trying to teach you the principles. You can go out there and run 10,000 labs like I did if you want, or maybe run 1,000, you know, and with a bit of the sort of paving the way that me and some other pioneers have done, you might get there. But what I'm telling you is you could join a training program and then you'll know what to do with your next new client. You will know what to do with your next new client. Number one, you're going to stop losing them because you didn't know how to heal them. You know how to heal everything that can be healed with the holistic protocol. Science-based, you run the right labs, individualized protocols, no one size fits all in anything we do. You actually resolve metabolic chaos. It starts to sort itself out through that healing process, and you can be the last person they need to see. Feel amazing doing your best work, helping clients to feel and perform at their best. Looks like some happy campers right there. And the next steps for you folks is to do this. We want to send you some more education. We're going to nurture you, if you will, for about 12 months, if it takes that long. We're going to do a webinar of a different piece of the course every month. So the next one will be on February 26th. We're going to go over module 2. And it's going to be a done deal for the rest of the year, every month. You can look for the bonus that Jen mentioned in a video. We're going to send you a brain body diagram video so you can practice that yourself. And if you're ready to become an FDN health detective, you can always go to the website, fdntraining.com. You can look it over, sign up there. Or you can speak to a course counselor at that phone number would be what I would do, or go online to that same website, functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com/counselor. Jen, I'm going to see if we have any questions and leave it at that. Yeah. We're just kind of trying to lead people down the path here so that they know where they can go to get serious help.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is great. I myself, like Reed mentioned, am a health detective and FDN practitioner, and as a personal trainer working with clients, like all of this is the story of my life in a sense. So I'm sure there's a lot of you guys that are thinking or experiencing the same thing too, where you're just either you yourself are stuck in that cycle of trial and error that Reed talked about earlier, or your clients are. And I know that was happening with me, and I just felt like there was something missing until I found FDN and I could help people on that deeper level. So we really just this year in 2019, our focus is to provide more educational opportunities for you. So like Reed said, the next webinar that we'll have is going to be on February 26th. We're going to dive into a little bit more detail about HPA access, function and dysfunction of sorts. So we're excited. So mark your calendars. We'll be sending out invitation emails for that. And that's why it's important to make sure that you have us on your safe senders list for email so you don't miss any of those emails that are going to be coming out. And then certainly for everybody that showed up on the webinar today, everybody that attended, live with us, you're going to get that bonus video in your email tomorrow. So make sure that you look out for that. And we do have some questions here that I want to get to. So if you guys have questions, please go ahead and type them in. I just also want to give it a shout out to the rest of the people. We have Bridget from all the way from New Zealand that joined us, Karen from New York,
All right.
and Melissa from Austin, Texas. Melissa, we're going to be at PaleoFX in April. So if you guys are going to be at PaleoFX, we will be there also. We're going to be doing a sponsorship and having a booth. And then we've got Anne, who has a couple questions here. So you guys, the rest of you can type in your questions. So Anne says, can you tell us more about the lab testing process? Yeah. And then Anna says also, who pays for that in Australia? So Anna, I'm just curious if you are from Australia yourself. I imagine you are, maybe if you're asking that question. And I can tell you that I'm here in San Diego, California, and I have clients that are in Australia. So that's the other really cool thing about the work that we do is we can help people all over the world. Like I have clients in Canada, Australia, the UK, the EU, and of course in the United States. But Reed, I'll let you talk a little bit more about the testing process, and you can touch on some of the Australian support and resources that we have there too.
Yeah, fantastic. Great question. We like our Aussie and our Kiwis. We have quite a following, and actually they're really like missionaries. I feel like I am for 10 years have been deputizing wonderful people who are taking their nutrition or their personal training or their massage therapy or their yoga studio to the next level by adding this important layer of investigation. Find out what's wrong and fix it. What's wrong with that? And so they're doing it all over the world, anywhere you can run lab tests. So what I teach in the course, to answer your question, is the labs that I use here in the States. And again, it's saliva, urine, stool, blood, whatever it is. We teach you what we run tens of thousands of with the number of practitioners we have. And because we've grown internationally, we know the local labs. We have FDNs in those countries and even mentors in those countries. Like we have a mentor who works for me right in Australia. Same thing in the United Kingdom and Canada. So we've got people who know the local ropes. And yes, over the years, we had to find local labs. Now, the American labs usually will ship to anywhere in the world, but the shipping might be a bit pricey for some people. And the other part of the question was about who pays for the labs. It doesn't matter where you live, you never pay for the labs. Your client pays for the labs always. That makes it a very clean deal so that you're not actually running the lab work. Your client's running it on themselves. So they hire you to make sure they get the right kits, to make sure that you look at the results because you're the one trained to look at them, to identify the healing opportunities. But the client always pays for the labs, and they'll pay you, and then they'll pay for the labs. Why? Because they can't get this work anywhere else. And so I'll show you the onboarding process you need to walk them through. And look, they can choose to do it or not do it. They can stay stuck in the cycle of trial and error and come back to you in a year if they tried 2 or 3 other therapies that didn't work. And when I teach you how to walk them down that path, they have only one logical thing they could do, and they're usually very excited about it. So not only is it logical, but they get excited and they sign up with you if you stick to your principles. And so they pay for the labs, and anywhere in the world you can get labs. There are some countries, by the way, like Saudi Arabia, we can't ship labs there. And China's pretty hard too, but most other places are workable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have the lab partnerships in Australia. So I run a lot of our labs in Australia as well. I mean, that's what it's saying. Like we're kind of worldwide in a sense. I mean, there's some places that are a little bit tougher to get your labs into, but we're pretty extensive with that.
We're international.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, the first FDN class I ever had 10 years ago, almost 11 years ago, there was people from England and Canada there. And very soon after we got, we have, I think, 50 countries, so you're fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got students in 50 countries. Over 3,000 students have gone through the training in 50 different countries so far. Awesome. So Anne says, can we have lab tests done for ourselves here in San Diego before we decide on the FDN program? And sure.
Let me
Yeah,
let me answer that. You can hire an FDN and they'll run the labs, but why not just take the course? It's going to be the same price. You know, FDNs, I don't want to sound snotty, but they don't work real cheap, you know, unless they're just want to. You know, I mean, you can do charity work. I do plenty of charity work, but mostly I just give money to my charities. You know, when I'm working, I'm getting paid, and so I'm going to teach you to raise your prices. Most like nutritionists, personal trainers are charging 5 times what their ordinary rate was prior to becoming an FDN. So your time's going to become really, really valuable.
and important to mention too, Rita, I don't think that you touched on this because we didn't really cover the course content too much tonight, is that you actually, it's a requirement that you have to run some of the labs on yourself when you go through the course. So they're required to do what, 2 or 3 labs when they go through the course?
Yes. So you do labs on yourself, and look, you can't do this work if you're not willing to walk the talk, right? And like my buddy Al, I'm not sure if he's still on, but that guy gets up at 4 o'clock every morning and gets on his treadmill. And, you know, he's been doing it for 30 years probably. But
No,
I don't know
actually, I celebrated doing it 57 years.
you're
Well,
a sucker for punishment.
I'm almost
But
70,
you look great.
so.
Yeah, you're in top-notch shape, and you know we all try to walk the talk. But I don't do mine at 4 in the morning. I wait till at least 5:30 or 6.
Yeah, so that's, you know, kind of what Reed's saying is that if you're interested in doing the testing, you might as well, instead of spending your money on hiring an FDN to do that testing, you put that money towards doing the course, and you're going to do the testing in the course, essentially. And then you're getting the skills that then you can use in your own business. I'd just be curious, Anne, I'd love to ask you a question back, like what it is that you do. Anne, are you a health coach? Are you a trainer? Like what line of business are you in now that you might be able to utilize lab testing to help people on a deeper level? Just type in and let us know.
Yeah. So, and I got a clarification on Ann's question about the testing. No, I mean, I teach a course, so I'm not taking clients anymore. My company doesn't take clients. We are starting an internship program for our graduates so they can get a lot of experience. But we might be able to point you out to an experienced FDN if that's all you really want to do.
Could I address Ann's question? There's a question by Ann Davis. There are 2 Anns. Is one? Oh, maybe one. There are. One's an Ann and one's an Ann.
No, 2.
Yeah. Could I address
2 questions?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Did you address this one? She says, I don't mean for free. If we pay for labs to see if we have metabolic chaos or what our underlying problem really may be. Could I talk about it for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. So, and that is really the best question of the night, in my opinion. So I think that's terrific. And I'm going to tell you why that is. Because realize this is that 98 point something % of all the people that ever come to you as a client, and this includes you, has metabolic chaos. And so in reality, when Reed says it's the only thing that you could really ever treat with a client, one, because you can't diagnose. I have a license to diagnose, but I'm going to tell you that treating patients for over 30 years, that everyone who's going to walk in your door, unless they have a frank pathology, will have metabolic chaos. And that really is the big challenge that everyone has here on this call. And I'm going to address that for a second because I think it's important. Realize this, that the next client that walks in your door, including yourself as a client, or your mom, or your dad, or your sister, or your grandmother, when they come to you with a symptom, your challenge is not to determine what the underlying problem is. It's really to figure out how best am I going to treat their metabolic chaos, because there's really no way for you to determine, no one has a way to determine anything else but metabolic chaos. The reason we run 5 tests as an example is because it gives you a picture of the metabolic chaos. Otherwise, you're always going to guess and say, oh, my digestion test was worse than my liver test, so I must have a digestion problem. In your question, or what our underlying problem may be, I am going to tell you the challenge is, what are you going to treat your next client? There's only one thing you can treat, one thing that you could unravel, and that is metabolic chaos. The lab test, as Reed said, just gives you the healing opportunities for their metabolic chaos. They don't tell you what's wrong with the client. They give you the opportunities to fix the metabolic chaos. That's why this is such critical information, because the clinicians, regardless whether you are a functional medicine practitioner on this call, a personal trainer, a chiropractor, a medical doctor, whatever it is, realize that we all are really on equal footing, no matter what your license is, because you're going to be faced with the challenge of, if I don't know how to treat metabolic chaos, I probably can't help most of the patients that walk through the door. I was being facetious about, doesn't everyone recommend exercise, sleep, diet, nutrition?
Yeah.
The point
Let me give an example. Go ahead.
Please. No, go ahead.
All right. So an example, Al, you're so right. So an example is here perhaps. What I said we did. Let me find the step 2. So step 2 is Dress for Health Success program, apply wellness principles, and address all healing opportunities at once. And then what happens is the client will, let me go back to where I want to be. So step 3. Step 1 is assess. We run our lab. Step 2 is customize the Dress for Health Success program. Step 3 is run the program. Now you coach up function, you coach down contributors to metabolic chaos. Let's say someone has Lyme disease. Is that a contributor to metabolic chaos? Yes. Are most practitioners out there going to say, I found your problem, it's Lyme disease. And they're going to treat the Lyme disease and hope you get better. And typically people with Lyme disease don't get better because they have so much other stuff going on that they're completely ignoring. And so I'm not saying you don't treat the Lyme. Yes, and by the way, it can be treated with natural stuff. You can treat it with drugs. It depends on how you want to treat it. But it is, to us and our mentality, simply, and this is simple. This looks a little bit too simple for some people. It is just another contributor to metabolic chaos. It's a stinky one, because it's hard to get rid of. But it is just that. So, and so you have a person doing that, but it's not intractable, and it can be either suppressed to the point where you don't have symptoms anymore, or gotten rid of. You can test. I've had people, for instance, with hepatitis, and it's gone. I mean, hepatitis is another really tough one. It shows up on like Hep C, Hep B. It shows up. Oh my God, you've got that. You're gonna have it the rest of your life. Your liver's gonna be destroyed, and you're gonna die young. They tell you that stuff. No. When you look at that as just another part of metabolic chaos, and you coach up every cell in the body, not just the liver cells, every cell, every organ, every tissue, everything, then guess what? You correct course as needed, meaning that there's some give and take there. People are going to get off the wagon and back on the wagon and correct them. They will get better. Now, here's the key to the answer of that question. Here's the answer. Causal factors like Lyme or, gallbladders congested are resolved, or vital voids are revealed. Let's say you don't have a gallbladder. Well, that's going to show up. If you had a hysterectomy at 20, that's going to show up too. That's a vital void. That is a void in vitality that you might have known was there, and you might not have known it was there, but it will be revealed. And some things just have to be supported forever. Like, I've had so many people come and they've had their thyroids basically radiated right out of their neck or removed surgically. So, well, that's a vital void. You're not going to grow them back. You're not going to grow a gallbladder back. So there might be a few things that you have to live with. I can't even grow my hair back, so I know how you feel.
I love
figure out what
everything
needs
that you guys are
fixing
saying.
and help fix it.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, because it's the truth.
You saw what Ann said. She says, I agree with you totally. She totally
Yeah.
understands where we're coming from.
And I wonder, Anne, I was just saying that.
So we go ahead.
I was just say, Anne, you're a PhD, healthy gut, and certified nutrition advisor. I feel like you might live down the street from me in Pacific Beach. I feel like I've seen a sign outside of somebody's house that says that they're a PhD healthy gut advisor. Maybe it's you. You're local to us. So
what is she serving?
How long? Let me ask you guys
dinner?
a question. Yeah, let me ask a question here. The root cause may be known. That's okay. Maybe undetectable, far removed, or what you even measure. That doesn't matter. You can have a positive effect upon it when you know what steps to take. Healing occurs when the healing process is focused on identifying and removing contributors to metabolic chaos and supporting function. Remember, that's coaching up the function. Now, how long would you do that for? You do it until your client's better. You know, healing occurs when the process is focused on identifying and removing contributors to metabolic chaos. That's why we run 5 labs up front. You know, we don't run one lab. Let's identify 1 or 2 contributors to metabolic chaos or results of metabolic chaos, the dysfunction. We get a lot of pieces of the constellation. We're trying to identify, and it's nice actually if someone comes in and they already know they've got Lyme, but we're still going to run our labs. We're still going to look at everything that's broken that having Lyme contributed to. And they might also have mold in the house. They might also have a parasite because they went to some foreign country and picked up some sludge or whatever, and we're still, no matter what, we're going to support function through corrective behavior.
I want to tell a quick story about Lyme disease, since you mentioned Lyme disease. I did a lecture for a local hospital here. Do you have time for this very quick story?
Quick story.
Yeah,
quick story. We got a couple questions that we want to get to.
Okay, good. You wanted to take the questions first? My story could wait.
Yeah. Jen?
Yeah. Oh, next question. Okay. Is Kimber says, will the recording be available? So that's a quick one. Just want to say, yes, we will be sending out a recording first thing tomorrow. So that's why make sure that you mark us as a safe sender so you don't miss the recordings also. Terry says, I have Lyme disease and have done it all to get well. No offense intended, but this seems too simple, at least for my condition. My recent labs are very similar to those you displayed, such as the tanked hormones, cortisol, gut infections, etc. Can you tell me more about what you would do to address difficult to treat infections such as Lyme and co-infections? And by the way, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm very interested in this program. Just want to make sure it will go deep enough.
I just answered that. I read that and I just spent the last 5 minutes on it. That's why I went back to the slide and talked about Lyme and talked about thing. And we totally get it. Another very common question that we get is how much does the course cost and how long does it take and things like that. Jen said I hadn't done a lot of talking about the course. I'm going to show you guys this and we did have a few people leave. I hope they come back and watch the replay because I'm giving you guys a code here to take $500 off the price of the course and save a lot of money if you join real soon here. I can only keep this coupon open for a little while. There's that same phone number. Basically, here's how it breaks down. Our course actually has an $8,000 value. Running 2 labs and mentoring can be as much as $2,500 easily if you hire an FDN. That's why when I answered that question, I said, someone said, well, can I just run lab? No, just take the course. There's a business module, which is actually priceless, but it's easily, between $8,000 and $10,000 value. Our regular everyday price, because I like to be the working class hero, is only $59.95. And it includes a lot of free community support, peer support groups. Every document you'd need to practice health coaching is included. There are payment plans available. But back to that slide about the coupon, we're willing to take $500 off because you were kind enough to give us your time. And we're always recruiting. I'm always recruiting. I'm always trying to get more people to become FDN so they can go out there and do the good work that we do. You can take $500 off and save. And if you do it by Sunday, February 3rd, I will give you, on top of that, our advanced blood chemistry course, which is a $497 value. It says here the first 10. I'm actually going to keep my word that I just said. And if you sign up, I'm not only going to give you the 500 off, but I'll give you a $500 course on top of it, our advanced blood chemistry course. Generally, it's reserved for graduates, so you have to graduate to get it. But I'll definitely comp it to you at the end of your thing. That's a total savings of roughly 3,000 plus. Was there any other questions about pricing or how long the course takes or anything like that, Jen?
I think Julie's kind of relates to this as she says, there are many states that do not allow testing, and we get this question a lot in regards to the course because people want to take the course, but they're worried about being able to access the testing. So can you clarify that for us?
Yes. Well, there's only one state that it's hard to test in. That would be New York, because New York is very suppressive. The labs that live in like Colorado and California and Michigan and Florida and these other, they can't do business in New York. So you can run labs in New York. You just have to find a way around some of these rules that they have. Everywhere else you can run all the labs you want. Remember what I said, you're not running the labs. Your client has direct-to-consumer access through my program. So I provide my graduates with access to over 70 different labs. And you can run them anywhere, except in New York, and only run a few of them. So you can get our basic lab work done and maybe a few other things. But everywhere else, I mean, including Canada and Australia and New Zealand and United Kingdom and all these different countries, as long as we can ship you a kit and you can put your saliva in the tubes, urine and stool, and get it back to the lab, you're in good shape. And shipping, I can't help what shipping costs. I just have no control over it. But so the comment about you can't run labs in my state, either you're in New York or you're mistaken, because we run all my labs in every state. And you don't have to be a doctor. Again, I have a special medical director program. It's direct to consumer, but only my grads can use it. In other words, the public just can't have access to labs through my program. I have to make sure you're trained to help that person.
Perfect. So Kimber's just saying, who can we talk to about payment plans? And there's already a 6 and a 12-month payment plan that's automatically available when you guys go to enroll. So you can select one of those options. If you want a different option, like some people like to put down a larger down payment and then break it up into 3 payment plans just to get, finish it off. We can definitely do something like that for you. And I would just suggest that you reach out to our course registrars. They can assist you with that. So that was the number that we showed.
Yeah, call that. Yeah, the number's right there. Number's there. But if you just go to FDN training and register there, you can put in the Detective 500 code, click apply. It'll take the 500 off, and then you can split the rest into 6 or 12 payments, easy as pie. The other thing that Jen just mentioned would take some administrative, it has to be done by hand, so it will slow you down. But we're happy to do it. But yeah, you can go in there and end up with 12 payments, and you can finish the course in 4 to 6 months if you put in 5 hours a week, maybe 6. If you're a slow reader like Dr. Al, maybe 8.
Yep. Catherine wants to know how successful are FDNs in Canada, specifically in Ontario.
Well, Canadians, because I am one, they kick ass, and I'm from Toronto. So, as a matter of fact, we have a really good colleague of ours up there, Dr. Sachin Patel, who has FDNs working in his office. So in Canada, FDNs seem to be finding these juicy jobs, like working in holistic wellness centers with a chiropractor, with a naturopath, and these kind of folks. And Canada actually has some special designation. As an FDN, you can get certified with the IICT or something like that. You can get an extra designation. Plus, as a graduate, you'll be a member of the AFDNP, the Association of FDN Professionals. So we're actually offering you 2 credentials for 1. And just because you're an FDN, you get to automatically accepted into the IICW or IICT. I forget I got it here.
Yeah,
But
we've
and that's
got, I
kind of
was
a
just
new
looking.
thing. Yeah.
I was just looking, we have over 249 students or trainees that have gone through that are from Canada, and 79 of those are
Yeah.
from Ontario specifically. So we've got a good
Yeah.
chunk of people in Ontario.
Yep. And you can do it there. You know, I'm actually doing a webinar tomorrow. One thing we do a really good job of, and Dr. Al, I understand if you have to go. I know it's probably your bedtime over there in
Well, it's at
Massachusetts.
least dinner time.
You probably have to put some logs on the fire or something like
Well,
that.
that I
It's
do have to do.
probably
So let me just say this. I'm in the polar vortex, and I'm going to thank you guys for letting me join you tonight. And I am going to sign off. So I just want to say to everyone that's still on the call that really, you really have to get up every morning, look in the mirror, and say to yourself, if I don't know how to treat metabolic chaos, what am I going to do? Because now you know what you need to know. And ultimately, it's a really important question if you really want to be in the business of helping people. So, with that said, everybody, have a great night. I'll talk to everybody soon. And I'm signing off.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Al. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye. Bye. Take care. Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah, I'd like to give people a chance to leave if they want, but you know, as long as there's people here asking questions, I'm one of those
Yeah,
guys. When I do a webinar, or I do these. You're still on, Al.
I'm gonna mute
Might want to
him.
mute him out.
I'm muting him.
Yeah,
Muted.
and so you know, I do a lot of public lecturing, like when I was building my practice at libraries, at grocery store. Man, they'd be flicking the lights on me, like, "Hey, you got to leave. We're trying to close." You know, because I will stick around and I will talk to people about helping others all night long. I
Yeah,
mean,
we've
I'm
got
not going to tonight, but I'm just telling you. Yeah, go ahead.
there's one more question from Terry.
Okay.
She's just asking if our training includes the comprehensive Dutch hormone test.
Does it include Dutch hormone tests? We cover the
Mm-hmm.
Dutch. I mean, it's not your standard traditional saliva test, which is much more accurate for like cortisol. You can't even measure cortisol with urine, dried urine. You have to use metabolites. The same thing with progesterone. You have to use metabolites. So I prefer the direct measurement of saliva on some of these things. And like the circadian rhythm, you know, at least the cortisol awakening response, you cannot do that with dried urine. That's where you do the plus 30 because it takes too long for urine to metabolize or for cortisol to metabolize and end up in the urine. So by the time it ends up in the urine and you could pee it out and measure it, it's changed. So with saliva, you get the real time, real moment. So I teach you mostly on the saliva, and then we have advanced training on the Dutch and lots of other things.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm gonna teach you an intake that was gonna work for 8 out of 10 people, and then once you're a graduate, we have over 70 different labs that you can run, and there's training on them in the graduate area, and most of it's free. It's like a bunch of free training on all the extra labs for our medical director program. You have one person; that's their full-time job, and we're running hundreds of those labs every month for our FDN practitioners.
Yep. And I think it's great. Like one of the things that I really appreciate about the training read is that, you know, there's every, like you always say, you've said this a million times, like we're, you know, 10 years away from having the perfect test. We used to say 20, but that was when I first started the training. So now it's maybe like 10 years away from having the perfect test that tells us everything. And, you know,
I
that's
should have
one of
said
the things.
50.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that we really talk about is it's not chasing the test results either. So there's a bunch of different tests that you can use, but what you need to learn how to do is how do you take that information and correlate it back to the person? Because there's been plenty of times when I've run a test on somebody who tells me that they feel perfectly normal, but their tests come back looking like a hot mess. And then the vice versa, where I have somebody that's like completely suffering and their lab tests come back with like hardly anything on it. And so you have to correlate it back to the person. And that's what FDN also teaches us is that you can't treat the test results. So it doesn't really matter, you know, there's different tests are going to give you different insights. And ultimately you need to know how to take that information and correlate it back to the person so that you can really help them. And that's the biggest part of this. And taking like what we talked about today as a health detective is the lab data is like your forensic clues, your forensic analysis that you're taking, and you want to consider all of those clues and you start to piece together the puzzle. But we're not diagnosing. We know the one diagnosis is metabolic chaos. It's then how do you collectively support all the systems of the body, and what action do you take to restore vitality and restore health? Two good more questions that we have here, Reed. Zakia is asking if there's a replay. Yes, there's a replay. We said that earlier. You guys will get that tomorrow. But Zakia is also asking, how do you stay within your scope of practice legally? And this is a great question that we get about the course all the time. So Reed, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, first of all, we don't do anything illegally. I would never do anything that even came close to crossing the line. So what you have to do is be able to identify the line. Now, prior to being in this field, I was in environmental and business law. So I took a very, very real approach when I started doing this kind of work. I was working in a doctor's office. They made it very, very clear that as a non-physician, I cannot diagnose or treat anything specifically. That was the rules. And I accept those rules because those are the rules. But then guess what I discovered? I don't want to diagnose and treat anything specifically because that doesn't fix people. So the doctors that I worked with originally said, Reed, be glad you're not a doctor because we're handcuffed. We have to practice standard of care. We have to diagnose and treat specifically or we can't get paid. You know, you can't send a bill into an insurance company that doesn't have a diagnosis code on it. ICD-10 now. Back then it was ICD-9. So they have to diagnose and treat. We are not bound by those things. And again, those doctors said to me, Reed, be glad you're not a physician. You're actually going to have to figure out what's wrong with people and help them fix it instead of just diagnosing and treating the cluster of symptoms or even like one test result. So number one, there is a line. And number two, we never cross it. So I don't ever provide a medical diagnosis. And telling someone what the healing opportunity on a test is not the same thing. And then explaining to them how to fix it is very simple. For instance, we tell a client who has, let's say they have dysbiosis or something like that, you could easily say, you know, we had another client with the exact same condition, and here's what they did to fix it. And you could do that too. And you know, you could even tell them where they can buy the stuff and all that stuff. It's really kind of a freedom of speech thing, but you're not going to be providing any diagnosis or treatment of anything specific, which is where that line is. And by the way, I have more than one lawyer in more than one country. And so I've been doing this a long, long time, and I have a lot of legal training myself. And bottom line is, I would never do anything that was even resembled practicing medicine without a license or unethical or any of those things. And I know all about the red state, green state, yellow state. Matter of fact, tomorrow for our alumni group, I'm doing a webinar. You guys can't come to that, but it'll be recorded and it'll be sitting in there with all the other recordings because I take really good care of the alumni. So we have something called the Association of FDN Professionals. And those are, you know, we do separate kind of the hobbyist from the professional. There's people who do FDN just as a hobby. They just do it on themselves and their family, and that's fine. But the professionals who do it for a living belong to a group. They pay very low dues. I way over deliver, but they do get to use our code of ethics and the AFDNP handle, and we expect them to follow the rules. And if they ever broke those rules, I'd yank their membership. You know, so we have ways of making sure people are behaving themselves. We call it herding the cats. So yeah, it's something that I just accepted. You know, you can't start a tribe and not lead it, right? So here it is 10 years later, going on 11 years, and I'm still here doing webinars, you know, recruiting, getting people in. And tomorrow afternoon, I'm doing a webinar just for the alumni, and it'll be on legal issues and handling the terms of service agreements and things like that, because I'm an expert in that too.
Great. Another question just popped up from Catherine. I mean, Reed, if you want to, we maybe take one more question. You can answer this one if we want to, and then
Yeah.
start to wrap it up. But
Yeah, I'll take
she's
one
just
more. Okay.
asking, are you finding that the medical community, Western medicine that is becoming more open-minded to this kind of supportive modality? Also, there are acts popping up all over the place, like the Physiotherapy Act in Ontario that doesn't allow anyone not licensed with them to even have discussions with people who may be suffering a serious illness. Have you come across that?
Yeah, and I've read the Constitution of the United States and also the Constitution of Canada, and it's perfectly legal to speak your mind and to tell people what you think about something, no matter what they try to tell you. So there are suppressive and organizations, or mostly people who want monopolies. So there are people who want monopolies, and the only monopoly that we gladly give or grant to is to physicians. They can write all the prescriptions and do all the surgery they want. We don't want any parts of that. So they can have their monopoly on those sorts of things. But nobody can monopolize the words that we use, or tell me what I can say or not say in the right context. In other words, I would never say to Mrs. Smith, here, take this supplement, it'll cure your cancer. That'd be insane. It'd be wrong, unethical, and you probably should get in trouble for saying something like that. That's not right and fair. But what is right and fair is what I told you. Mrs. Smith, my training in this lab work indicates, and all the science indicates, and there's lots and lots of research and documentation, that this lab report of yours, after you took the challenge, you sent in your urine, it says that you have permeability of your gut. So that means food particles are leaking into your bloodstream that shouldn't be. And that could be part of why you feel so lousy, why you have inflammation, you're overweight, and you have foggy thinking, and all this other stuff going on. That could be the reason. So you did not provide a medical diagnosis. And the first thing Mrs. Smith's going to say is, wow, great. No one else ever told me this. This is fantastic. How come my doctor didn't run this lab? You can shrug your shoulders and say, oh, I don't know why. They're looking to save your life. They look for something maybe that's killing you, and they couldn't find anything, so they go, you're fine. But me, I'm a health detective. I look for healing opportunities. I look for things that are actually wrong that you could improve. That's not practicing medicine. That's being a damn good health coach and health detective. And so to answer your question, what can you do about it? Well, people in this situation, what they generally do is this. As a matter of fact, my mother did this, and it worked perfectly for her. And so you could try that if you want. I guess you could try that. And they're going to go, hell yeah, I'm going to try that. It's as simple as that. I really have taken some complex stuff and made it simple. And that's my legal background. I can't tell you how many hours in the law library reading really hard stuff. It's actually harder than medicine. Medicine is at least scientific. Law is a bunch of gobbledygook, big words, trying to say something that no one else can understand, and that's actually harder. So switching to the human body was kind of a natural thing. And
Great.
Yep. All right, so that's it for tonight. Thank you guys.
Yep.
Really appreciate being here. Wow, you guys really stuck around. And get your questions answered. There's that phone number that I hope you wrote down. You can call, and someone will get back to you. You can go on. We have a chat box on the website. But otherwise, what I would do if I was you is have some faith. Go to fdntraining.com. Type in Detective 500, take $500 off. Take the 12 payment plan if you want, or the 6 payment plan. If you don't like this, if it's not right for you, get your money back. We take a little bit up for the admin fee, but you can get your money back if you don't like it. You tell me within a couple weeks that, hey, this isn't for me. You got nothing to lose here, everything to gain. Okay, Jen, thank you.
Awesome, you guys. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us.
Okay.
See you in February.
Yep, bye.